Okay, so hi everyone. I'm not going to introduce any particular individual thing. I'm kind of going to give you a bit of an overview, first of all, as to what Ireland's interest in heat transfer coefficient measurement or understanding is all about. And I'll go through national priorities in this area, and then I'll talk through one project in particular, and then I'll just signpost to other ones that we have ongoing that might be relevant. So in Ireland, the government basically and the funding agencies haven't been that interested in any projects to do with measuring heat loss physically in buildings, through walls, through ceilings, through whatever else. Most of our national studies have been around the area of general home energy monitoring. So it's always been about the gas, the heat pumps, the electricity, etc. And it's only more recently that the government has become interested in this area because we're trying to really push the use or the uptake of heat pumps. So right now we're trying to get 400,000 heat pumps across Ireland by 2030. We're very far away from this. We've only got over 100,000 now at the moment. And so because of that, the government has now upped the grants hugely. So they're offering a huge proportion. It used to be around €2,000 in grants to do a heat pump, and now it's up to 12,500. So in order to achieve this target, the homes that can have a heat pump, they have to have a HLI, which is the per meter squared version of the HTC, of less than 2.3. And a recent call that was put out by the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland specifically asked for an evaluation of this criteria. So why is it 2.3? Can we get heat pumps up there that actually are very efficient in homes that aren't of that value? And also, how reliable is this measurement? Because it's normally taken from our DEAP procedure, which is very similar to the SAP over here. So essentially, they put out a call for that, and we won that grant. But because one of our partners' facilities hasn't been built yet, that's going to be delayed for at least another year. So there's been a bit of disagreement generally about the validity of that HLI. And there has been one study done that showed that maybe 78% of our residential buildings could be eligible to benefit from essentially getting a heat pump. And also the government is currently considering increasing that to 2.6 as well. And another study found that the HLI could be anywhere between 2 and 2.7. So there's plenty of uncertainty around this value. Numbers almost being pulled out of the air a little bit. Another major issue is that we've had a lot of press around heat pumps essentially not working very well. They often get oversized. People mightn't even be in the home, and it's using up more energy than it would have before they had heat pumps installed. And so these are all kind of getting headlines across the board, and that's causing a lot less uptake in heat pumps overall. And really the reason for this is they're not being managed correctly, they're not being sized correctly. So we're trying to work on that as well. So now moving separately to existing projects, I'm just going to quickly introduce the Predict project, which is all about developing dynamic in-use factors, where you can essentially go in and put your building energy rating, which is RBOR is what we call it. And then you can put in some other variables into the system, like the number of people in the house, as well as other kind of occupancy-based variables. And then you should get a better energy use value out at the end. And as part of that, our first steps involve getting a load of existing projects where everybody has their own data and it's privately housed within their own computers. And we're trying to make that publicly available. So we're doing two things here. We're bringing it all together. We're harmonizing the values or the way that we represent the data. Getting standardized consent forms, and we're going back out to some houses and trying to get updated consent to allow us to be able to openly share that data in an anonymized way. But we do have to reduce all the people-based information for that. And then separately, internally, we're trying to come up with a consolidated data set, and that allows us to include details about the occupant and their use of the home as well. So for this, what I thought would be interesting or useful to people in this annex is that we've developed a number of standardized consent forms that you can download. So we have the residential template that you can use here, and we also have a commercial buildings template as well. So you can download them from Zenodo, or if you just Zenodo and predict, you'll find them there and you can download those. And one of our partners is a data control specialist. So she worked really hard with us trying to get forms that would be fully GDPR compliant, and importantly, that they would allow perpetual open sharing of a lot of the information as well. So this is an example of what the residential form looks like, the consent form. And you'll see here, there's lots of prompts, little areas where you can put in your own project details as well. It's quite long, but of course you can reduce it down. So if you're only looking at one thing, you can reduce down a lot of the terms used here. We also have put up a few sample data sets at the moment. So right now, I think we've got 2 houses and an apartment up there. And for those, we're also harmonizing the way that we represent our README files. So we're trying to use a common terms of reference, common format for the whole thing, common language, common units, etc. And that's just so that in the future, when we have this fully built up, someone could come along and say, well, I'm only looking at apartment buildings. So I'll take from this project, and this project. It'll all be harmonized. It'll be easily readable between each of them. And then we have the data sets themselves. So then for these data sets, for the open one that we have kind of our standard titles for each of our columns here. And if the data is missing for a certain thing, then it's just empty for that one. So we have the same lines each time. So again, it allows you to compare between the different data sets. And we're working as well on a machine readable version in-house that we'll have in the next year or so. So some things to look out for. We also have a QR code for a questionnaire. This one is particularly looking at producing guidelines on monitoring buildings. So it would be trying to come up with guidance on frequency of readings, on sensor types that are preferred, common pitfalls that you might get. So whether wireless is better or wired, and other details. It's quite a long survey, so please do start it. If it gets too long and you get bored, just submit it as is. So we can still use any data as much as we can get, just fly through it and submit it when you're so the results of that will be coming out once we've got that. We've only got about 5 responses so far. So once that's out, then we'll be developing our guidance on data collection for monitoring energy in homes. So that'll be in the next few months, and then we'll have our readable consolidated database should be available within half a year to a year. And then we should have our adaptive in-use factor tool and site up within around 1.5 years. So again, that's our code, but it's Zenodo is where you're going to see any of those database outputs or data set outputs. I'm just signposting to other national projects in this area. So the heat check project was coming out of Galway, and that's one of the larger data sets that we're now harmonizing to put into our project. There's an ACT, which is on commercial renovation, specifically CC Dorm, which was mainly monitoring, and that is looking at overheating risk. TradFabs and FabTrads, very similar, are both looking at traditional buildings. So those kind of big, thick walls, heavy moisture levels on an individual building element level. And then NZEB 101 is in situ testing of NZEB buildings in particular. Thank you, and it's short.
Thanks, Aimee. We've got 2 presentations now that kind of line up, and we're going to take a bit of a deviation now, a diversion, shall I say. We're going to look at cold weather stuff. So we've got a presentation from Annex 93. So that's one of our neighbouring annexes.